to vote no. They want us to believe white women are gonna benefit from this. You're not gonna benefit. And then we will keep the status quo and we will continue to be harmed and everybody else will continue to move forward. And then we'll continue to say, this isn't working for us. So it's like a reverse psychology in a way.
It is. And by the way, fam, we are going live right now. We'll let Monica come back before we start the full conversation. We got a full house, a full team here today. Monica, we are going live right now, fam. There you go. What's up, Monica? Welcome, everybody. We'll let folks trickle in and file in. Excuse my cough. Welcome, everybody. We will get started in a minute. You already know what this is. All right, you already know we've been doing this every week for the past 3 weeks. We've been coming to y'all live here in California to talk about what Prop 16, and we are going to continue that conversation 48 hours out from Decision Day 2020, November 3rd, 2020. We are 48 hours away from the last day to vote. This is an important election. I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone on this panel or anyone in the audience, but as we let folks file in, one thing to say is thank you for joining us each and every single week. For those of you who have joined us, for those of you who have participated in the discussion, please continue to participate. Thank you so much for your participation thus far. Also, while you get here, or while you're here and when you get here, like the page ADOSCA Media, like the channel ADOSCA Media on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell so that you get the notifications when we go live. We go live pretty often here at ADOSCA Media, as you can tell. We've been live pretty much every single week for the past several weeks, and then some. We are producing content on a semi-daily basis, pretty much. Big shout out to the ADOSCA Media team. Kim, Umoya, doing a great job managing the content for ADOSCA Media. So I definitely want to give them a big shout out. But excuse me, today we are here to discuss Prop 16. We are 48 hours away from the last day to vote. We got an amazing panel once again. Welcome everybody who's joining us so far. Let's get started with some panel introductions as we normally do. I'm gonna go last. How about that? I'll go last this time. Why don't we go first to my right, your left, whatever. Presidia.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Presidia Dangerfield. I'm so excited to have the conversation with you all. So make sure you bring your questions. Let's bring our concerns, put them in the chat. Let's talk about it. Born and raised in Oakland, California, know the impacts of what affirmative action can do. I'm initiating a Black Student Initiative at 826 Valencia to support Black students with their PIQ and also to develop a strong Black identity through literary devices and writing. So I'm really excited to kind of use, whatever I have to kind of bring to the table. Let's dissect everything we're not sure about and let's have the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, fam. And if you could mute your YouTube. I'm hearing Presidia on the YouTube. So if you are watching from the panel, mute your YouTube so we can get it right. Why don't we go to, after Presidia? Why don't we go to Monica?
Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Tolliver. I am part of ADOS California. I am specifically part of ADOS Inland Empire Group. I'm here today to show my support for Proposition 16. It is such, I'm a social worker by trade. Actually, I've done a lot of different things in life. But right now I'm a social worker by trade. And I've seen how what's going on in our community in terms of us being left behind. And it's ongoing and no one is talking about it. And I think passing Proposition 16 will allow us to be able to discuss some of the inequities and some of the disparities that are within our community and push for changes within our community. So that's why I'm here.
Big shout out to you, Monica. Thank you, Monica. All right, let's go to Maureen, originator of the Prop 16 campaign. Let me let you.
Yay. Yay.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Chris. My name is Maureen Simmons. I'm currently the co-chair of the Students for Prop 16 Coalition. And as Chris was starting to allude to, I actually spearheaded the initiative for the repeal of Prop 209 last year while I was a student at UC Berkeley, because like Monica was pointing out, I recognize the inequities that we face in multiple systems, whether it's education, the employment system. I later learned about contracts and how we're impacted there. And so I have been committed to social justice and racial equity at every level of admissions, public employment, and public contracts. So I'm so happy to be here to have this discussion today, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining, Maureen. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Presidia. Thank you, you in the audience. This is part 3 of our 3-part series of community conversations, specifically talking about Proposition 16, the constitutional amendment that would bring affirmative action back to California. As I usually say, it would make a Black agenda legal again here in the state of California. And we are a coalition of organizers and activists and just regular folk who are trying to make a difference and who are encouraging you to vote yes on Prop 16. Vote yes on Prop 16. So thank you everybody who's joining. Once again, hit the subscribe button as you come in. Hit that bell. Make sure you get all of the notifications. Share this right now on your social medias, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagram. Share this broadcast right now. Also, make sure that you are part of the conversation, right? So, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. Put your comments in the comment section. Put your chat in the live chat section. Let us know what you think. What's on your mind, as we are 48 hours away from the last day to vote here in the state of California. The last day for you to vote yes on Proposition 16. I actually want to start the conversation out with a message to those of you who might be like me, who waits to the last minute to vote, right? Who may have their ballot, who got their ballot in the mail. My ballot is actually, oh snap, bam. I didn't plan that, but it definitely worked. Okay? This is my ballot right here. I haven't voted yet, okay? Not because I'm not gonna vote. I'm just somebody who likes to wait to the last minute. It's just a habit. So I have my ballot. How can I vote though, right? Can I mail it? Well, no. The answer right now was no. I'm not gonna mail this ballot in right now. It will be too late for me to mail it in right now. So what I have to do is I have to first fill it out, open it up, vote yes on Prop 16. Then I have to take it into a ballot center or polling center that's close to where I am here in the city of Sacramento. So I'm gonna, on Monday morning, which is tomorrow morning, I'm gonna fill out this ballot. I'm gonna vote yes on Prop 16. I'm gonna get dressed. I'm gonna go to the closest polling center that is near to me here in Sacramento. I think it's behind Loaves and Fishes, if you're familiar with Sacramento. So it's very close to where I am, and I'm gonna hand the ballot in. I'm gonna drop it into the box inside of the polling center station. So if you're like me, you haven't done this yet, no worries. Okay, many of us wait to the last minute. Many of us wait and are undecided. That's totally fine. The point is that you get it in by the deadline, November 3rd, Tuesday, 48 hours from now. But I'm going to get mine in tomorrow morning. I'm gonna walk it in. I'm not gonna mail it because it wouldn't get into the hands of the people whose hands it needs to get into in time. So once again, if you're like me, let's tomorrow fill it out. Yes on Prop 16. Let's walk it into the polling center. If you don't know where your polling center is, I will check with the Secretary of State website. I will also check with your city's website or your county's website. The Sacramento County Registrar, for example, has a list of all approved polling centers. Make sure your polling center is approved. Make sure that you know what hours it is open, and make a plan to actually get your ballot in by November 3rd. Okay? So wanted to start there because it's important, right? Not everyone has cast their votes yet. We have seen a historic amount of early voting in the 2020 election. Over 62 million people have already voted in the 2020 election. That's 40% of all of the votes in 2016 already done by the time you're hearing this, and probably more. So we've seen a lot of historic early voting. There's a lot of reasons for that. One, early voting and mail-in voting tends to increase turnout. But two, we are living in a new world where we have a pandemic that has affected almost every part of our lives. And so we're doing a lot of early voting. So no worries though, make sure you get it in by November 3rd. Okay, I don't want to take too much time at the start here, but I just want to talk to you, yes, you, who is like me, who hasn't voted yet. We're gonna vote this week, tomorrow, if no later, if not Tuesday, we are gonna have this ballot in and we're gonna vote yes on Prop 16. Okay, I want to take it to the panel here because we got an amazing panel as usual. I actually want to start with, and whoever wants to take this can jump right in. Really, the question is, we're 48 hours out. What's your final argument for anyone who is undecided as of yet about why they should vote for Prop 16? So your closing argument, your final argument, what is the strongest reason, the most important reason you have, or you can think of, for someone who is undecided, who hasn't voted yet, but is undecided, is on the fence about whether or not, they've heard some good, they've heard some bad, they're just not sure. What is your final argument for why you or this person should vote yes on Prop 16? Anyone can jump in.
I think for me, I talked about some of the disparities and inequities we see in our community, in the ADOS community. This bill will allow us to be able to put in motion bills and laws and measures to combat that. Right now, we can't really do that because I think it's against a lot of talk. It's not against a lot of talk about it, but it's against a lot to have those kind of specifics. And that's exactly what we need. We've talked about a Black agenda. We've talked about specific resources for our community. And this bill will make that happen. It'll allow us to be able to push it, not just to the pass across the finish line. So for me, that's why I think this is important.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I mean, jump on in, Maureen, or Presidia, add to that. But yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to add to that for me, the takeaway is that currently in the California prison systems, Black men make up about roughly 26 to 27% of prisons, but we're only 5% of the state. There are inequities that are happening in this system across the board. Currently, Black woman who has a college degree earns 62 cents to every $100 that a white male high school dropout earns, right? Currently in this state, the admissions of Black students into the prestigious universities has plummeted over the past 25 years. And while we've seen there has been what we like to see, a rise in those that matriculate through the UC system, they're pushed into the UCs that are considered the less prestigious. And we know the prestigious universities of UCLA or UC Berkeley or UC Davis, those are the pipelines into higher paying positions and also into colleges and universities for graduate degrees that are going to turn out attorneys and doctors and those professions that we need to see in our community so that we can combat some of these inequities. So for me, it's very, very simple. We need to have a yes on Prop 16 so that we can substantively address the inequities that are in the ADOS community, specifically as it relates to admissions, public employment, as well as public contracts. Without a yes on Prop 16, we will continue to see the types of disparities in the ADOS community only continue to rise. And I would say that the brown community in California is on the rise. And I think Antonio or Yvette did a video on just the rise of the brown community. And as they continue to rise and continue to build wealth, and we continue not to build wealth and continue to lose out on those opportunities, I think it will be detrimental to our community moving forward. So we need a yes on Prop 16 to begin to legislatively address the disparities in our community.
Again, beautifully said, Presidia. Jump on in.
Yes, I want everybody to vote yes on Proposition 16, because when somebody tell me I cannot have something, I want it even more. Okay, they're telling us that we cannot have race based specific policies that address ADOS needs, and it gave me some fire under my feet. I'm just like, okay, so what do I have to do my part to make sure that this is going past? That it's going to pass. And so with the knowledge that I've learned, because I already knew, like, I know people who have benefited from affirmative action already. They are set. There are a lot of boomers, right? They have their pensions. They have their pensions from these good jobs. They have education that they were able to attain because of affirmative action. So I'm looking at their life and I'm looking at that window of opportunity that was closed. I'm like, we need that window of opportunity to open again. And so it is incumbent upon us to make sure that when we pass Proposition 16, that we are doing the work in order to make it for us. Like, even our ADOS fam out there, other Black people saying no, vote no on Proposition 16. I'm like, actually, I'm going to fight even harder, because obviously you don't understand. I'm actually with the experts. I'm with Maureen. I'm with Monica. I'm with Chris. They know the ins and outs of this. They are in the political field. Know what you don't know and reach out to people who know more than you. So don't go through the world acting like you know everything, because that's going to get you got, right? You're going to be looking crazy in the corner, okay? And it's going to be like, oh man, I should have voted yes on Proposition 16. No. You still have about 48 hours to vote yes on Proposition 16. So let's open that window of opportunity for our people and let's do the work.
Facts. Thank you for that, Presidia. And let me before we get into a little bit more of that, and also a little bit more of what the audience thinks, and in terms of what for those specifically who are on the fence, right? And if you are someone who's on the fence right now and hasn't voted yet and don't really know yet what you're going to do on Proposition 16, put it in the chat, put it in the comments. Let's have a conversation directly with you. We are here to do that. But before we even go that far, let's talk a little bit about how we think, or what we know about how Prop 16 is doing in the polls and in the results, excuse me, so far. And I always say the only polls that matter are the votes on election day. Right? I always say that. But let's look at how it's doing so far and what we might need to do to finish strong. And so, Maureen, I'm actually going to ask you to comment a little bit on this. Right now, from what we understand, we had some polling come out way back in early September that said that the proposition wasn't doing so well in polling. We had some information come out later on in the month of September and early October saying that, hey, actually the proposition was doing was either tied or ahead in some of the early results. Can you speak to what you know about where we are now and what we need to do to get from where we are to finish strong?
Yeah, thank you for that. So this has been a really contentious race. As you pointed out earlier in the race, I would say back in August, there was some data that was released. That poll was basically released, I believe, by a statistician from UC Berkeley that said that because there was no Black agenda attached to Proposition 16, that voters did not want to vote for it. It was at that moment in the campaign that campaign managers began to look at the strategies and tactics and say, oh, wow, people attach affirmative action to the Black community. And they said, we want to see an agenda that is for the Black community. And these were non-Black voters. And at that particular point, the way that the earlier messaging in the campaign was not effective. And so there was an about face. And the moment it became about ADOS and the Black community, I believe that was around the earlier part of September, late August, early September, when we really did like an about face and said that, this has to be, I say we, but it's really the campaign. I was there all the time. But so immediately when it became about the inequities in the Black community specifically, we saw the numbers go up. So that tells me that even among voters, whether they are white voters or even Hispanic voters, that they understood what this affirmative action bill would actually, who it would benefit. As of the last poll that I'm aware of by Capital Weekly that was released on last week, earlier part of last week, we were winning. We were up 7 percentage points. I believe at that time we had about 53% of voters, ballots who had been counted at that point. 53% were yes on Prop 16, about 46% were no on Prop 16. However, I want to stress that those were the actual ballots. That's not a total ballot. So we expect that this, as Chris pointed out, will be tight as we move through these last 48 hours. I'm sure there's, many more ballots that have been counted. There are people still haven't turned in their ballots yet. So I would say that as we look maybe tomorrow and hope we'll have another update that will give us another count of where we are on the ballots. But as of our last count, we were winning in the polls, but we need to not get comfortable in that because we recognize that that's not all ballots counted. So we need to continue, if you're undecided, to vote. I believe we had about 13% of Californians who were undecided. And those are voters that we could still reach. Hopefully by now that 13% has changed drastically. But if you are on the fence, now's the time to get off the fence and vote.
Hell yeah. And I want to come to you, Presidia, too, because I think you want to add to that. But so one, you raised some really good points, Maureen. One, if you're that 13%, can help decide whether or not we have transformative change in California via yes, or we stick with what is going on now with a no. It's going to be a tight race for sure. Every single vote counts, and I want to give a shout out to some of the folks in the chat. I think Miss Callie said that she voted yes. Somebody else said that they voted yes. So if you voted yes on Prop 16, put that in the chat. Let us know. Let your family know. Let your community know that you voted yes on Prop 16. Make sure that is known. This is going to be a close vote, fam. Every vote's going to count. And one thing that we do expect is that a large part of the opposition to Prop 16 is going to come from the more conservative, more Republican parts of the California community, right? What we know about early voting versus non-early voting with respect to party preference is that usually the Republican and conservative votes are more closer to election day and on election day. Whereas you can expect more Democratic, more left-leaning votes to come in the early voting and days leading up to election day. So just because we see that we are leading right now, or we may have a slight lead right now, there's going to be a lot of votes that come in on election day. And so we want to make sure that we get every single vote that we can. So don't get comfortable. Don't rest on your laurels. Yes, we are seeing some success, but every single vote counts. So if your cousin didn't vote yet, if your moms didn't vote yet, If your uncle didn't vote yet, if
Yeah.
your son, your daughter didn't vote yet, now is the time. We need every single vote that we can get. Monica, Priscilla, do y'all want to add anything to that?
That last minute push, we need that drive. We need to get out, get that vote out. That last minute, don't just sit back and think, oh, it's doing great. We don't have to vote. No, it's important. We need this. Everyone. It's a tight race.
It is. Priscilla,
Someone-
did you want to add anything to that? Oh, sorry.
So I was going to read a comment from that chat. I just thought was really interesting. I guess one of the ADOS crew met with LA Mayor Garcetti, and apparently Garcetti told them that currently the city cannot target policies and programs based on race. We need a yes on Proposition 16 to push for equitable city business and contracting. So that's another reason.
Absolutely, and that's exactly. And I think you mentioned that, and so I was trying to get myself off mute here. I think that's exactly what you mentioned in your opening statement for your closing argument, right? Which was, this is something, and I want to bring actually Maureen back here as well as Priscilla. This is a particular point that you just heard the mayor of a city say, right? Probably the largest city in California, say that right now we can't do nothing specifically for you Black people. I mean, let's just keep it real. We may want to do something specifically for you Black people, but we can't do it right now. Okay, because we don't have Prop 16, and I think, and to hear that from somebody who is in a position of power to move real funds and move real resources, I think is very, very powerful, and it just underscores why we need a yes on Prop 16. Maureen, Priscilla, jump in if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah. I just want to, I would like to just underscore that it's so important, because I've been saying that in this entire campaign. And I know that we've talked about it in our previous 2 brain trusts that we've had over the past couple of weekends. And we've been stressing the importance that we can't begin to address the inequities, say, for example, that we talked about last week in contracts, right? We can't begin to even push for our Black contractors to be considered for projects, and to ensure that there is equity, to ensure that there's diversity, because currently there's no mechanism by which we can even make that argument. We can't begin to make the argument, even to the degree that, as I think in week 1 on the panel, Marjorie pointed out the inequities in the legal field, and the fact that we don't have enough Black attorneys, and in our medical field, we are lacking in having Black physicians, right? We can't make those arguments to a degree that says we want to set aside funds so that when we have Black ADOS identified students matriculating through these universities, we want funds set aside so that they can go on to medical school and to law school, right? We want to be able to ensure that we have Black contractors so that we can begin. It's not going to completely close the racial wealth gap, but we have to begin to start, and we have to begin to recognize that it's going to take systemic changes. We didn't get here overnight. This is 400 years of inequity. And this one law, as much as I would love to sit here and say it's going to unravel all of that, I would be lying to you. And it will not unravel everything that it needs to unravel. But what it does do is it levels the playing field so that we can begin to go to the table and say, listen, Mayor Garcetti, and listen in Sacramento and wherever we are in California, we can then begin to go and we can begin to say, we want money set aside for these particular issues in our communities. And we will have a leg to stand on, because we can point to law at that point, and then we can hold them accountable when our communities are not faring so well come the budget, right? When they're giving out money in the budget and we notice we haven't gotten any of that money, we can go and say, hey, hold on here. What's happening? We need money in our communities. So we need a yes on Prop 16 to have that happen.
Absolutely. Once again, fam, if you are someone in the audience who has not voted for Prop 16, you haven't voted at all, and you are unsure about whether or not you should vote for Prop 16 or against Prop 16, we want to hear from you. Please put that information in the chat. If you're someone who's heard from somebody about why they're maybe leaning, for Prop 16, but are unsure, we definitely want to hear that as well, because this is the time. We've got 48 hours left, really, to make sure that we get every single vote that we can get for Prop 16, and we are going to get it. And again, shout out to everybody in the chat that has already said that they are voting for Prop 16. We got a lot of people who are way better than me who voted early, okay? Because I still have my ballot, okay? And I will be voting tomorrow, yes, on Prop 16, but I won't be mailing it because it's too late for that. I have to walk it into the ballot center, which is what I like to do anyway. I like to go in there and see people and, see the whole theater of it, but I will be voting yes on Prop 16, and for every reason that we've heard today, but for a number of other reasons also. But primarily, and maybe I'll give my, I didn't give my own closing, final fourth quarter argument here, but really, it's what everybody said: to make a Black agenda legal again. If you're somebody who cares about a Black agenda, you're somebody who wants a Black agenda, take it from some of the people who have actually tried to make a Black agenda real in your life. I can't tell you how many times I went to the city of Sacramento, the city council, the county people, school board people, saying, hey, we need to do something specifically for Black kids. We need to do something specifically for Black people. We need to do something specifically for Black people. And time again, they say, we can't target your group specifically, even though we know y'all have these problems and that need fixing. We can't target your group specifically because of Prop 209, which was an old law that passed. And so you need something like Prop 16 to take away Prop 209 before we can even do anything specifically for your group. So until then, we got to do something for minorities. We got to do something for people of colors. We got to do something for disadvantaged communities. We have to use these kinds of, and these are, city officials telling you, listen, change that word from Black to disadvantaged community. Change that word from Black people to minorities, because we can't target your group specifically. And yes, we know that once we change that word, we are not going to be as effective in the policy as we could be. Yes, we know we're not going to really get to the root of the problem, and you're going to have to come back here next year and do this fight all over again. Yes, we know that, but it's the best we could do right now. So if you really want to change something, Chris, you got to go to the state level. You got to get Prop 16 passed. This is a reality for a lot of us, and it's a part of the reason why things don't change, to be quite honest with you. And right now we need specific redress, we need specific action, and Prop 16 gets us that. So that will be my closing argument for anyone who wants to see something specifically for Black folks. Don't say you want something specifically for Black folks and then vote against Prop 16. Okay? You just shot yourself in the foot. If you want something specifically for Black folks, you vote yes on Prop 16. Let's raise this issue now. This is definitely something that has come up. It's been one of the primary oppositions to Prop 16 coming from at least Black people, which is, hey, it's not specific for Black people, so therefore I shouldn't vote for it. It's not specific for Black people, therefore I shouldn't vote for it. Panel, let's go back into that. Anybody want to take a stab at that?
I have a quote by Amanda Gorman, the first poet laureate for the national, she's like representing the youth poets. So she's really acclaimed. She has a lot of awards on just her literary skill, and that's what I also specialize in. But one of her poems says, we can't trick ourselves into thinking this won't work when the work hasn't even begun. So let's not close the door on ourselves and say this won't work, right? This won't work because X, Y, and Z. Oh, it's for white women. We love white women. We want white women to benefit from this too. But don't say because it's benefiting white women, I don't want to be a part of it. No, if somebody is handing out $100 bills down the street and you see a couple white women get it, you're not going to be like, no, I don't want that $100 bill because a white woman's getting it. No, let that white woman get her $100 and then you get your $100 too. Okay. So that's why I'm so happy for the American Descendants of Slavery movement, because it's getting our community so politically active, engaged, and like we're building knowledge and we're understanding how to navigate these systems. And through Proposition 16, like, yes, it's going to be some work. Like I go back to, yes, we're going to have to make sure we're at this table, that we're negotiating, that we're speaking up. Hey, this is a disparity that Black people have specifically. What are we going to do about it? So yes, vote yes on Proposition 16.
Fire. Jump on in, Monica Maureen. What do you say, to someone who says, listen, I'm not voting for this because it's not specifically for Black folks. Let's keep it real. If it ain't specific for Black folks, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, that was so fire, Presidia. I mean, I that was just fire right there. And I want to just amplify just one point that you made, because I don't think I could say that any better than what you said. But I want to amplify that as a member of the ADOS community, I know that someone on one of my social media posts responded that we should vote no on Proposition 16 because it would benefit white women. And to me, it told me that we are not politically astute enough to really understand how politics work. Let me explain how politics work. Us getting out of the game and sitting on the sideline and complaining about what's not working for us is not going to help us one bit. In fact, that's going to be to our detriment. Unfortunately, the way politics in America works is that you have to go in and be in the game. That's just the way it is. We don't like the game unless we are going to change the game from the inside out, which means we still have to be a part of it. We can't sit on the side and decide what's not working for us if we're not going in and trying to have our say in what's happening. I said early on, to people on social media that, voting down ballot does not mean that you are not in the game. Voting down ballot means that you are putting your vote in the local election, those local ballot measures that are going to more greatly impact you, even if you decide that the national presidential campaign is not for you. So for those that say, because this is not exclusively for Black people, then we should not vote for it, again, you're not politically astute. Because in order for it to be for Black people have to vote to get it in and then advocate to be able to take advantage of it. That's not going to happen without our effort. It's not going to happen without our input and our advocacy. And if we don't vote for Prop 16, it won't matter because we couldn't advocate for it anyway. So you need Prop 16 to even advocate for a Black agenda. Without Prop 16, we are worse off because now we don't have a mechanism for ADOS at all in California. We will just be making a lot of noise. And Prop 209 will be the barrier that will stop anything ADOS specific. And in California, particularly, ADOS will lose its teeth.
Monica, you want to add to that? Fire.
I just see it as a very strategic move. I'm finding since I've been involved in ADOS that it takes a lot more than just complaining about what's not working or just talking amongst our friends, which is what I think a lot of us do. We sit back and just, oh yeah, this isn't working and blah, blah, blah. No, it's a strategic policy move that will allow us to be able to make strategic moves on behalf of our community. And I think that's what convinced me. Without that is just like, oh, okay, I'm trying to make something happen and I don't have the tools to make it happen. I don't have the juice behind me to make it happen. This will give me that juice in order to make something happen for our community. So that's just kind of how I see it, is just a real strategic move politically. So
It is. It is strategic. It's smart as hell, to be honest with you. And it represents, I think, a turning point in our growth, development
mhm,
as Black folks here in California who care about one, our future, care about
yes,
also the future of Black politics, but also care about, you know, that care enough to be involved right now to make whatever changes we want to see happen, right? That's why I am so fortunate. I feel like to be a part of this Yes on Prop 16 campaign. Presidia, I saw you. Did you want to jump in? Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, so I actually am on the committee for equitable salary at my job. And I was advocating for specific funds for professional development for Black individuals specifically. Literally, there are budgets made to give different things to employees. Like we have a PD fund, professional development fund for X, Y, and Z. If Proposition 16 is passed, I can go back to my executive director and say, look, it's no longer legal to understand a disparity in a specific group and give certain, funds to a mental health PD on the side for, ADOS. It won't be illegal. So knowing that there are systems within employment, systems within education that we can tap into once that door is open, like if we work at it, if we're strategic again, the opportunities are really limitless on how we can kind of maneuver and like go to the heads of these organizations and institutions to like say, hey, this is no longer illegal, so let's get it done. Just wanted to add that.
yeah. I wanted to add, to piggyback what you're saying. Someone in the chat said, his name is Thomas Shields, said facts, because right now they ignore you hiding behind Proposition 209.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Let me tell you how it works. You have a policy proposal. You work on it with your community. You go to your community. You see the need. You talk to your community. You get the community to come up with its own community built solutions. You put it in the package together. You have normally two ways to get it into reality. Either you're gonna put it on the ballot yourself as a citywide ballot measure, or you're gonna have your city council pass it. Something like one of those two ways, right? When you take it to the city council way, which is a little bit easier it's a little bit easier because it's less expensive normally, and because these are the people there who you elected to represent you and to get your interests, done. So you go to city council route. They say, okay, let me take a look at your policy proposal. You want to do this. You want to have this changed. You want to move money from here to there, and specifically to who? Specifically to Black people. This not even going. We can't even submit this to legislative council. We can't even submit this to the city lawyers. Everything that the city wants to do has to go to the city's lawyers first. Everything the city wants to do has to go to the city's lawyers before they even look at it. The city's lawyers got to say, is this even legally doable? Before we even go to a vote or a campaign, is it legally even doable? That's the first door. You don't get through the first door if you have Prop 209 and you don't have a Prop 16. They say, I'm not even going to give this to the city lawyers, because I know they're going to say it's illegal. They're going to hit you with the Prop 209. You don't have a Prop 16, you have a Prop 209. And so I'm not even going to, so Chris, thank you for your effort. Take it back, change Black to minority, change Black to people of color, change Black to disadvantaged communities, underserved, all the code words, right? To zip code. That's one that they use now. Change it to zip code, right? But don't bring me nothing that says Black. That's what they do. then you have to make a decision. Do I want to dilute and make this a weaker proposal, or do I want to stand firm on something that's specifically for Black people? When you make it weaker and dilute it, you know what happens. It's not effective. And sometimes even that has a hard time getting through, right? So that's what you have now. That's where we are now. Prop 16 would change that. We could go and say, listen, we want to do something specifically targeting this specific group of people. Right now, Prop 16 is not specific to no group. It's not specific to any group at all. So yes, it's not specific to Black people. It's not specific to Black people, white women, Asian Americans, Latino. It's not specific to nobody. Right? What happens with it when we pass it depends on us. And there was a question in the chat, I think from Marjorie, what happens if it passes? We dealt with a lot of that last week, right? But long story short, what happens when it passes is advocacy and a lot of organizing. Advocacy and a lot of organizing and a lot of mobilizing on behalf of your own community and your own community's interests. So you get very self-interested, you get very organized, and you go advocate and you get what you organize to take, right? Other thoughts, comments, questions, or anything that anyone has heard so far? We are about to wrap it up, but please jump on in.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on what Miss Callie, I think it's Miss Callie said. The comment reads, Latino and Asians are able to create policies around Prop 209, but ADOS gets a pushback. And to that, I wanted to say that this is exactly why we need a yes on Prop 16. And in particular, even in our current, let's talk about status quo and then Prop 16. So in our status quo, the reason that we get a lot of hard pushback is because we are not in the positions of power. We are not in the positions of making any of those decisions to begin with. And I love what Presidia said, and I want to echo that. If you walk away with anything from this panel that we've had today, that is that you need to become politically engaged. The detriment that happens in our community is that we expect other people to do the right thing by us. We know that's not going to happen. If that were the case, we wouldn't still be fighting for reparations. They know they owe us. Come on, you don't work someone for 400 years, 200 years of those as cattle, as property. Steal their land when they become free. In California, freedmen, they weren't slaves, freedmen came to California and were enslaved in California when they were free, and California was a free state. We saw that happening in multiple states. So we know what's right. And if we continue to depend on other people to do the right thing by us, that's our fault. That is our fault if we continue to expect them to do right by us. So that's status quo. That's why certain communities seem to progress no matter what the laws are. Why? They have people seated at the table advocating for their communities. ADOS needs to do that as well. We need to have people at the table who are centered in ADOS advocating for us. Now, Prop 16 passes. Nothing changes. We still need to have ADOS-centered representatives advocating for us as we advocate for ourselves. Come November 5th, it's not as if people are going to wake up and say, oh yeah, by the way, we need to help out the Black community. No, those other communities are going to start fighting like hell to ensure that they're not left out. And guess what? We have to make sure that we're advocating just the same. We cannot sit back and hope that other people do right by us. Let's stop doing that. Let's stop doing that. That is part of the reason that the Democratic Party believes that we're their suckers, that they have to do nothing for us because we will vote and expect nothing out of it. Voting is an exchange. You voted, you should expect something out of it, but here's the catch. You have to make sure that you go and do something to get something out of it. You can't sit back and wait and hope and wish, because you will be very disappointed at the outcome of Prop 16. I mean, that's just the reality. The reality is that Chris is there advocating in Sacramento. I'm there advocating, in the circles. That's how we got here in the first place. people are going to have to advocate, and each one of us are going to have to continue to fight to ensure that we get equity.
Absolutely. Fam, let's round this out. We are approaching the hour. We're trying to keep this in a reasonable amount of time for the family to digest. Let's go to last thoughts, last comments, last words. If you could leave anybody with any one message around Prop 16 right now, what would it be? We got 48 hours. Again, here's the ballot. They got my name on it and got my address on it too. I didn't realize that when I put it in the camera. But damn it, I don't care, okay? Because I want you to vote yes on Prop 16, okay? So I don't care if you know where I live. Come vote yes on Prop 16. If you want to pull up with me tomorrow, Monday, we could go together here in Sacramento to vote yes on Prop 16. Don't mail it in. All right, do not mail it in right now. Don't do that because it won't make it in time. Right, there's a deadline that you have to mail your ballot out for it to be accepted. All right, so find your polling place. Usually they're open, at least here in the county of Sacramento, they're open, pretty much to anyone, anywhere who lives in Sacramento. You don't have to go to a specific one. If you're in Sacramento, you can go to the one closest to you, or, if it's on your way to work, or if it's on your way to pick up the kids, whatever it is, it's as convenient as possible. So, take it in tomorrow, take it in, take it in tomorrow, take it in, Tuesday the latest, but make sure you take it in the next 48 hours. Again, do not mail it, walk it in, don't, put it in the box and, and go about your business. But wrapping this up, before we go to the closing thoughts and final thoughts, I want to thank the panel here and the panel over the weeks who have been here, Presidia, Monica, Maureen, of course, Dr. K, Marjorie, Ricky, anyone and everyone who's joined us on the panel, and also you in the audience who've joined us every single week and also have talked to your friends and family and your everyone about Prop 16. Thank you so much for your time over these past several weeks. We're not done yet though. We do want to end with some closing thoughts, some final thoughts for the panel. Give it your last shot. Why should somebody vote for Prop 16? What are your final thoughts? Why don't we go with Monica?
I like what Ms. Kelly said in the chat. She says, we need specific restorative policies for the few ADOs still hanging on in California. Yes, our numbers have dwindled in the state, but a yes on Proposition 16 will allow us to advocate and push for those policies. And so I just want to leave us with that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Presidia?
Yes, I learned through analogies, and I see Prop 16 as flour, right? So it's not specific at the moment. Each community, each culture, each set of people will do what they will with the flour that they are given. They'll bake in a case for reparations. They'll bake in immigrant rights. They'll bake in, ELL support for their students in the school district. We must take our bucket of flour and make it specific. We're gonna make cornbread, y'all. Let's make cornbread specific to the meals, the food, the nutrition that we need in order to thrive in California. So that's my closing analogy for how I see Prop 16. Yes, it is not specific to any specific group, but this is the opportunity to make it specific.
Beautiful. Made me hungry too at the same time. It's that time. Maureen?
I was thinking now I'm hungry, but that's good. I'm hungry, in reality, but theoretically I'm hungry as well. And I want to thank you so much, Presidia, for that great analogy, because I think that it speaks to where we should be politically and where we we need to begin to think very strategically, and that is a very strategic analysis. When we can think of any piece of legislation from that point of view, how do we take these ingredients and make it something useful for us? And I think that speaks to our awakening politically. Thank you, Chris, for making this platform available for Prop 16. Thank you, ADOS family, for joining this fight. I say, and I don't care who disagrees with me, that this fight, that new life was breathed into the Yes on Prop 16 campaign when ADOS came in the picture. I like to believe, and I mean, again, people can disagree, but the data was there. At the beginning, we weren't doing so well. ADOS stepped on the scene, and even though we're small in number, I believe that God has our back, that there are non-Black people that are fighting for us. And so I believe that we will come out on top. I believe that, and I don't want us to become disheartened by other people making a grab for it. I believe this is our season. I believe this will pave the way for reparations. I believe this will pave the way for many more things to come for ADOS. So for that last remnant that's still here, hang on. You know, I believe that this will be something that's good for our community. Stay the course, stay lifted, stay encouraged. I love you, and thank you for fighting with me in this.
I don't want to say no more. The only thing I want to say is thank you, Maureen, for spearheading this initial effort and the continuing effort to get Prop 16, what will become Prop 16, on our ballot this year. You know, for those of you who don't know, you know, Maureen is gracing us with her presence, but she is one of the originators of the campaign to bring affirmative action back. You know, started at UC Berkeley, and now it's grown to a movement here in the state of California to bring affirmative action back. So Maureen is famous. So I know, you know, she here with us, you know, just talking, but like she's one of the originators. So I did want to, you know, give you your flowers here. You know, while you here, we appreciate the fact that, you know, we wouldn't be having this fight right now if it wasn't for you, Maureen. Just to keep it 100. So, you know, thank you. You know, definitely want to give you your flowers now, regardless of the outcome on Tuesday, which we know is going to be positive. But regardless of the outcome on Tuesday, please, you know that you are thanked, you are appreciated, you are loved from even getting us here. And regardless of the outcome, we're gonna keep fighting, right? We're gonna keep fighting for specific Black policies here in the state of California. So, any other final words before we go? Just want to do one last check. We are doing okay. All right. Thank you, fam. Appreciate you. We are well on time. Thank you again in the chat. Go vote yes on Prop 16. You still got time. Every vote's going to count, fam. It's a tight race. Yes, we see that we're having some success in the polling and in the early, you know, votes, but don't take anything for granted. Every single one of your votes is going to count. Everybody you tell and talk to is gonna count. If you on the line at the polling place and you see somebody who's filling out their ballot on the line, tap them on the shoulder and say vote yes on Prop 16. All right, every single person, put it on your social media. Every single person, who has already voted, vote yes on Prop 16. And if you have questions about why or why not, check out this 3-part series, and hopefully that hopefully that helps you understand why you should vote yes on Prop 16. All right, that's my final pitch. Thank you, fam. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. We love you, and we will see you soon.